Greetings, one and all. Welcome to the newest movie trivia Schmoedown Sideline play with your host, John Maffio Preston Esquire. The movie trivia Schmoedown has been very busy as of late. Last week we had 3 matches. This week we have 2. One took place very recently, and I haven't made a video in a while, and I have notes upon notes. First, we had a really entertaining match with Lon Harris and Cody Hall. And I gotta tell you, I'm really a fan of Lon Harris's Professor Gig. I love what he's about, and I like what he's doing. And he's just very respectful, and his personality shines through. And I would have also never guessed that Cody Hall would have taken the lead with a perfect round. So he joins that perfect round club, that very elite club of prestige. But he's there, and also it's really fun to have that Wanger shout out throughout the match and have cops are yelling out of nowhere. His yelling's the best though. I do want to say though, the questions for round 1 were relatively novice in the sense that it seems like they weren't crazy questions, but the round 1 isn't about difficulty, it's about variety. And Cody Hall managed to get even a couple guesses there to get to that perfect round, so congratulations to you. But I can't stress enough how fun this match was, and it went down, again, yes, to sudden death. Went down to the very last question, and overall, I got 15 points in this whole match, and I did know the final answer at the end there with 1776, but apparently Lon did, and that's how he got the win. And apparently Lon challenged Copster, and we haven't seen Copster actually compete in the movie Trivia Schmoedown for a long time. It would be interesting to see if that actually comes up at some point this season. My god, it's hot in New York right now. I'm sweating in here. Then we had the Ash vs. Evil Dead celebrity match with Dana DiLorenzo and Ray Santiago and their respective partners, Whitney Sebold and John Snepp. It was one of those matches where it's not about the questions, it's more about the personalities in the room, and Bruce Campbell is one of the people out there. And if you haven't seen even any of the Evil Dead movies, or even like his little cameos in the Spider-Man films from back in the day, you know that he has like that class, that bravado. But his commentary was great, and him giving out some answers out of nowhere, like the Hugh Jackman question when he just mentioned Greatest Showman. Like it didn't affect the way the teams answered, but it's it was comedy. But Bruce Campbell was like this really trained dachshund that was off his leash for a moment, and he had to be pulled back a little bit. Then we had the INNERGEEKDOM League 5-way match, which could lead into a match against Jason Inman, our INNERGEEKDOM champion. I got 36 points on this. I did very well for the most part, but INNERGEEKDOM seems to be my forte because I know a lot about comic book movies and Harry Potter and Star Wars and what have you. But we had a bunch of new and also familiar faces. We had the Enforcer, Mark Donica, who ended up winning. He's also very tall. The Answer Man, Mike Carlson, Botanicus himself, who didn't seem to be taking the match too seriously the entire time, but he still held his own. Crazy Coy Jandrew, who had Childish Gambino in his entrance music, and I had to give him all the props for that, but he ended up having somewhat of a weak performance compared to everybody else on the board. Haymaker Adam Hlavak, I think I said that wrong, but I'm gonna just power through that for a second, who did very well next to Mark Donica. And then you had another fresh face, new baby face, Magic Keaton Marchie, who went out to Wicked. And she's got a really bubbly personality. I really like her, and I hope to see her more in future matches, as well as everybody else here. Mike Carlson didn't really have like didn't seem like he had the oomph to be there, but like I would like to see him return because his personality does bring something new to this Schmoedown, and his I don't give a fuck attitude is kind of welcomed. Keaton prided herself on being a very big Harry Potter fan, but ended up missing the question for Lupin, even though she said she knew it. Everybody got that question wrong. And then she also challenged for the Resurrection Stone, which she said Philosopher's Stone. And I don't know, I mean, if I was a judge, I think I would have given that to her. But it makes sense that it's known as the Resurrection Stone from Deathly Hallows. Like, that's what it was referred to as. So it makes sense to me, but also, at the same time, I could see where that could end up being a point. But 1 or 2 points can make a whole lot of a difference, so it's really tough in these situations. But Coy and her were eliminated first, and then Mike, and then Adam. But Mark Donica did have the impression and the attitude that he would win this, and he ended up winning it, and he was very nonchalant but confident about himself, and I like the way he carries himself. And now because of the way he carries himself, the Lions Den wants to recruit him. He's not saying yes right away. They're gonna have talks. If they actually manage to recruit this guy and bring him on, then I smell trouble for Jason Inman, because I don't want to root for the Lions then, even though I do like this Donica guy. Then we had a normal classic Schmoedown match between two really big names, Jeff Sneider and Mark Ellis. And on this game, I got 20 points overall. I didn't do terrible. I had 5 points in round 1, 10 points in round 2, and then 5 points in round 3. And it was a really fun match just because of the personalities at hand. Like, we all know Mark Ellis, he's a showman, and he always stays in character, as he did with this newsy thing that he was doing here. Gee whiz Gallers, oh my. Jeff Sneider brought out his father. I thought that was a really nice, sincere family moment with the Lions then. Going into the actual game, going out of round 1, it was a tie game 6-6. And also in round 1, there was that question with the Ant-Man after credit scene with where Sneider picked Captain America and Mark Ellis picked Falcon. And I guess there was a little controversy on the Facebook Schmoedown page and all over the place about that question, that he got that right. But technically Captain America was in the movie. He was in the after credits, so I think it counts. But I could see where people could differ and disagree there, that because it wasn't part of the movie and it was part of Civil War, then it wouldn't be. That's another fine line, but technically it was part of the movie. Technically. Getting out of the semantics here, going into round 2, it wasn't a perfect round for either competitor. Then going into round 3 with the Apocalypse Now question, I mean, I would have thought Marlon Brando, or I was even thinking Martin Sheen, but never in my head did Robert Duvall get in there. But that ended up being the answer, and then Mark Ellis ended up losing there, and Jeff ended up winning. But it was a respectable game on both sides. There was no bad blood spread around. It was just all classy competition, and I was expecting a little bit of like some kind of rivalry or something. But with Mark Ellis, he's a very classy guy. He's not one to like start a fire like maybe a Rocco would. Then, going into the match that just happened most recently, we had Superhero News versus Box Office Breakdown. And this consisted of Sean Garber and Sabrina Graves for Superhero News, and Frank Moran along with Amy Martinez for Box Office Breakdown. Lots of love being thrown in this match. Lots of respect and class and just excitement to be there. There's no history, there's no baggage. It's just people who are just happy to be there and compete, and it's, for what it's worth, it makes things all the more entertaining to see how personalities can grow over the course of the entire match. Overall, in this match, I got 31 points, and I didn't have my normal dry board for this match because it was full, and I wanted to keep it that way so I could show you guys on the video. So I ended up using my little notepad to take down my tally. I ended up getting 7 points in the first round, 14 points in the second round, which I did really well there, and then I got 10 points in the third round. Going back to the first round though, for the actual competitors, by the end of the round, there was a 5-point lead, 6-11 from Superhero News. Amy wasn't really getting a lot of the questions, but her answers were fun, and also keeping in theme with the love and spreading love. She was just giving compliments all around, and you don't really see that, again, because there's no baggage or bad blood anywhere, so that was a welcome thing. For the lack of answers that Amy was able to bring into her mind for the first couple rounds, there was a moment of opportunity that seemed lost, but I'll get to that in a little bit. For round 2, Superhero News got Disney for their wheel category, and they did pretty well for the most part. At one point, Box Office Breakdown was able to steal on the Mulan question for the villain, but they still retained their lead, 18-7, so another 11 points there. But Box Office Breakdown was able to get Spinner's Choice, and they picked new releases, which makes sense for their show, so it's something that they would be very acquainted with. They ended up getting most of their questions correct, which brought them to 15-20, so they were only trailing by 5 points by this point. They actually had a chance here going into round 3. But then as they trailed behind going into round 3, they had a question for Ghost. And that's where my mind went to. I've seen Ghost. Ghost is a very popular movie in pop culture, and when you hear Whoopi Goldberg in the 90s, it's kind of like the first thing you kind of think of, right? Or one of the first things you think of, because Whoopi Goldberg was big back then, but that's like the movie. But Frank Janish pointed out something at the very end of the video that I didn't notice on the initial first playthrough, and that's that it seemed that Amy knew that the answer was Ghost. She said it like Ghost. But Frank ended up saying a different answer, and that's what led to their loss, which then resulted in a TKO, a technical knockout, because Superhero News didn't have to answer any questions in round 3. Lucky for you guys. Moving into the post-game interview, there was love all around once again, keeping in theme with the sincerity. It does seem like there is some edginess coming out though with Superhero News because they want to try to take on Team Action. And they seem very confident in taking on Ben and Andrew once Andrew comes back from his monthly suspension. And that'll be interesting because, I mean, I feel like Team Action is not one to say no to a challenge. And they're probably going to write this off as like, oh, this new team. If that match actually transpires, I think it might turn out to be a different game than what Team Action might presumptuously assume. And with all that said, that's all I have to say for this edition of Movie Trivia Schmoedown Sideline Play. There was a mouthful because I was not able to make a video for last week's matches initially, so I'm just playing catch up here. So for all those people out there who are watching and are still here, I want to know what was your favorite match out of all the ones I briefly discussed here. I think mine was the INNERGEEKDOM 5-way or the ELLIS SNEIDER match. And Ash vs. Evil Dead was a really fun match too, and it makes me want to watch that show. I've been trying to watch that show for a long time because I have friends who do. I never watched it though, but I'm definitely going to jump into it soon because they're half-hour episodes. Like, there's no excuse. I could bang through that in no time. For all the Schmoedown fans out there, please let me know which new faces are you hoping to see stick around in future matches and help develop their playthrough. And also, what stories are you looking forward to seeing develop? And finally, if you are a fan of the Schmoedown, but you haven't thrown a support for their Patreon, go check out the link down below and throw in $1 or more, depending on how much you can give away. The more money, the better. But once again, that's it for me this week. I'll be back next week to cover Friday's match. I'm John Maffio, aka MaffmanJones. If you haven't, like, subscribe, and check out my social medias as well. I'll see you guys on the next Sideline Play for more Movie Trivia Schmoedown coverage. See you later, alligators. That was such a white thing to say.